This meeting is being recorded.
Was this set up BCC?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
NCA, right here.
Ah, see that? It's the train master right there. What's your name?
No, Chip is running westbound, I'm running eastbound.
Ah, okay. You got a freight coming in. Just the high line there.
Right there. Oh, yeah. You ever see what's on top of it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does happen. It sits long enough.
That's how I modeled it.
Yeah.
You guys, sure. There's all the East Penn guys are on Zoom. So far, I'm only the East Penn guy here, but yeah. Well, some are supposed to be coming in person, some supposed to be coming on Zoom. So I'm like the on-track reporter. So
Yeah.
Here comes the doodle bug on the main man.
Yeah, well, it's about 1955. In the end, it was still down to the city.
Oh, that's it.
Well, the land was over towards the racetrack.
A nice little town here.
Just the other side of Route 70. Really? Yeah.
Hey,
They
nice
used to have one in
brickwork.
Philadelphia, too.
Pretty cool.
That one mysteriously caught fire.
Buildings up in the mountain area there.
I was part of flood, but I'll tell you one thing, patios, this thing.
Another train coming in. And that's that. I don't know if you see it.
Steve, how was the driving over there tonight?
Oh, actually, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, it's dry.
Yeah, I didn't come across that much ice or anything like that. So
No, I was even out on the bike today to do my shopping and whatnot.
Get a lot of whatnot done?
Yeah.
Happy New Year, Russ.
Grazie, thank you, same.
Thank you.
Just trying to keep up with everything.
How's that going?
And it was just a flat. Joni Mitchell's one, like they just honored her Kennedy Center.
some nice weathered cars there.
Yeah, they can run nice, realistic length trains on this layout.
Yeah. Here comes the
So every once in a while, she's got to go.
New York Central.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a few years. We last had a meeting there. What was it, about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Now, you live farther down, you live by Chickies and Pete's. Yeah, I live close to the Frankfurt Avenue. Yeah, I'm right around the corner.
It's all plug in DCC.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty
But
neat.
it's very expensive too. My buddy lives on Charles Street, but he lives behind Stein's Florist. Oh, he's up near Franklin. Yeah. That's Princeton Avenue, yeah. I'm not too far from there.
See if I get that. You got a chain in
I
right
don't
there.
even know why people would support you. Well, first of all, his father started that, not him. He started
There's a nice
the original one that's right around the corner from me.
pull station down there.
But that piece of shit that runs it now, I think the only ones that run in,
Central's coming back around.
There's one out there.
there's one in Gordon
They're
Town.
going up the hill, too.
There's one in,
Oh.
We're not competing with CERA tonight, are we?
They took him to court. They won. He owed the one, the wife was like, something like $30,000 or $40,000, you know, but altogether it totaled like $2 million. And as I found out, just by chance, before it was signed, he was building a house when the Delaware River right we started the state in Clarksville. The woman I happened to run into, she lived across the street from where he was building. Yeah, I guess he needs the money to pay for that, but you know, like, he's taking the money off his waitresses.
Nice. You tell what's going to Bridget Butler.
That's good. 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 I'm just.
I don't want to have it be reported to the FRA for a cheesesteak incident.
I took them on that analysis before we were starting up. So, you know, I don't like this.
How are you, Bruce?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
I've been better. I've been worse. I'm grateful to be here.
Right answer.
Steve, has anybody else joined you in person down there or?
Not yet.
Yeah, so I guess what, there's 14 of us on Zoom.
They pump extra oxygen into the building.
What time is it? I can't see the clock in my.
7:38, my computer shows.
Okay.
We
All
usually have people coming in till after 8, Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps you alive. You know, if you
I'm,
raise.
I'm looking at the schedule. The CERA is not tonight. Tonight is the Cincinnati and the Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. They don't often have traction related things. Occasionally.
Yeah. And tomorrow is Boston.
Tomorrow's BSRA, yeah.
My apprenticeship. Classroom was 60 degrees. You know why? One was you won't fall asleep at 4, and as the temperatures drop, the air condenses, and you have more oxygen in the cubic foot. But you won't fall
Isn't
asleep.
there something in Oaks tomorrow too?
Yeah, this Greenberg's, I think, tomorrow.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Besides the gun show that tends to happen when we have a show there.
I don't know if it's the same time this year.
They seem to be there all the time.
Yeah. Usually it's before Christmas so people can get their gifts.
Or eliminate their relatives, one or the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Suspect if I gave my wife a gun for Christmas, I'd be sleeping on the sofa.
Yeah, they're supposed to be coming. We'll see. Ooh. Got an interesting little thing coming out here.
Well, they have more catenary up there, huh? Looks good.
Yeah, they look real nice.
Yeah.
Got these translucent insulators on there.
Yeah. What are you working on, Steve?
Mostly city stuff. Yeah, a lot of city buildings. I'm trying to get that all taken care of. The David Coverwife is here. How about that?
Call the police.
Hey,
Oh, yeah. There's Dougie.
You got John over there.
Hey, Doug.
Behind 30.
hey, Doug, say hello to the rest of.
Hey,
Hi,
Doug.
Doug.
Happy New Year, Doug.
Happy New Year. Is that it?
So,
Tell Doug to string some trolley wire there.
Oh, lucky. You should probably wear it.
Remember when Richard McCullough had the flowers delivered to him? Up his 40 years ago. Richard McCullough, he was the Drippers Union business manager. Yeah, and
Got a pretty
they
big,
delivered flowers to him. Two of Angelo Bruno's good
Grain
buddies.
elevator.
Now you know what I mean by flowers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's a big grain elevator.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, I guess, a future industrial area right here.
Found out after Long John was dead that he was my father-in-law's brother that they had not seen since they were teenagers. He chose to obey his wife.
Yeah. Like a
You know what?
little detail of a steel mill or something.
Would you believe that Bob Dietrich lost the link to
Oh, to the
the
newsletter?
meeting? Yeah, I have to.
Oh, we got it. The P5A actually stopped at the station, so.
Oh.
Little post up of it.
there we go.
Yeah.
Wait, I have to send this link to Dietrich. I'm gonna log out for a minute while I do it.
I usually just start up Zoom and then key in the numbers, but hey,
That should work. That's all I did.
yeah.
Yeah, all wire span work too.
I just click on the link in the newsletter and goes right to it.
A lot easier to do on
Yeah.
this scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can always write down the numbers, the links, like you say.
Yeah, the funny thing is, it's the same number of connections that you do in O scale, like HO, but it's just a lot bigger.
Yeah. I can see it.
Yeah. Oh, we gotta backing it up, and it's not the railing.
Yeah,
That's always a feat, you know. Is that a Challenger?
It's an Allegheny,
Ah,
2666.
yeah. You know, I'm a Charlie guy. I don't really know.
So many the best advice I got was, oh, we're sitting here in the receiving line.
No, it's working good. Had a little clank clanking on here.
I had the email Bob the link. He didn't see it on the front page of the newsletter next to his birthday announcement.
Well, you didn't make it red, that's why. Did in Pittsburgh colors.
Yeah.
Gotta get further away from you.
Oh. Oh.
That, I guess, that's a model of 30th Street.
Yeah, it's a pretty good model too.
Uh-huh.
Weathered.
Yeah.
You can see. Little
Yours is sort of the gold standard, huh?
You got lights and everything. Plenty of people.
Yeah, but there's no
Yeah.
trolley subway there.
They've actually got benches on the platform. We don't have benches anymore.
Yeah. Do they have pigeons pooping on the sidewalk?
No pigeons. Actually, you know, there aren't any pigeons at 30th Street anymore. Most of them get eat up by the hawks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of hawks living there now.
Ah,
Used to be annoying when they were inside the building.
Well, yeah, that most of them are. When you see them, they're inside the building. That's the safest place for them to be.
Yeah.
There's actually a falcon living in the Pico building.
Oh,
on
really?
top. Yeah. I've seen him in action. He's something.
That's great.
He dive bombed them.
Where's the subway surface?
There's probably a stair to it somewhere. You see underground there.
Underground, you can't see it.
Yeah. Lots of detail. And you know, there's still, we call it little market streets where the trolleys used to run
Yeah.
before they went to the bridge.
Oh, you could backdate it before the subway went through there.
Yeah.
Put the trolleys on the surface again.
Well, you would have the L with low clearance in this area.
That'd be sort of like Charlie's layout then.
yeah.
Yeah.
How's the construction going, Charlie? Did they start this week?
They started, but I guess what I'm waiting for is the building permits.
Oh, my God.
I have to deal with bureaucrats.
Yeah. Oh. Don't usually the contractors do that?
Yeah,
No, they asked me to do it. See, remember I'm using contractors that, see, the roofing contractors from Mannheim
Okay.
well,
and the general contractor is actually from out your way. He's
Okay.
he's in Rosemont. See, so he normally deals with, he's familiar with, you know, Lower Murrian and Radnor.
Yeah, and maybe Haverford, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, but he doesn't do anything this way. So,
Yeah, the Schuylkill is sort of a barrier for contractors.
There is more, sir. They're robust. They're heavy. Okay. They weren't strong trucks.
Charlie, you need permits for repairs,
Can you tell that?
or are you building new?
No.
I don't know what they consider. Well, see, the problem is they put the uninhabitable sticker on mine, even though they said I could live in it.
Can't wait to get my M1.
So they have me like marked, you know, I really.
My dad would have bought that.
Well,
Oh, the back end. I wasn't watching the back end. Oh, yeah. It doesn't hit anywhere else. Well, that means the pole's too close.
Is anybody familiar with Zoom that can tell us how we can take Steve's photo and make it big as compared to the array of everybody else's photos or background?
Go to view.
Go to the speaker view, I think, because I set it up so Steve is spotlighted.
Thank you.
Everybody
Speaker
else
view.
is off.
Speaker view does it. Yes.
Yeah.
oh, okay. So you can see everything now, dude.
We're all on a learning curve, Tom.
yeah,
Yeah, because it took me a little while to set it up, but I have Steve spotlighted. So he's always like in the foreground. Even if he's not speaking, he's considered a speaker and comes into the foreground.
Yeah. Now I'm used to at work. I guess it's set up at the speaker view.
They refunded everything.
yeah, well, this cafeteria was run by,
They didn't know whether they were gonna get it.
you know, ARA.
Really?
Yeah,
And,
you know, they had
we
it
got
set.
three tables.
I don't know, maybe he worked for RCA. I don't know, I just assumed he was. you know. with
I'm guessing all this track is hand laid.
I didn't realize all these reporters that-
Steve, it's been a couple years since we've been there. Wasn't there catenary in this area?
Oh yeah, it's on the other end. I'll go
Okay.
back over there. Yeah, you should see something you'll like.
The brass passenger equipment.
I don't know.
Oh, I know. Brady told me.
Brady told me maybe about what, 3 weeks ago?
Well, I talked to him after you and he said.
Yeah, this is
Okay, yeah.
whole area here has got all catenary on it. You see ALP 44 and whole bunch
Get a
of
better picture.
parts there.
Yeah, what?
E5A,
What, did I know what?
that's the concept.
Huh?
I hope nobody calls.
Oh, hope, yeah, me too, yeah.
You see all the catenary there and intricate curve switches. Nice double switch there. And actually with the correct catenary above it. I did the homework.
Never knew what the hell.
Yeah, that's all, yeah. That's the one. Oh, no.
A lot of pull-off wires.
Number of things. I remember clearly, Nick Riley came up to one time and said, how much of those guys do? Just a lot. About 2 hours later, it took to Alan, maybe we didn't make it.
Actually, usually the PRR did a lot of incline catenary on curves.
You know what?
I think there's some back there.
Well, he didn't like. But John.
No.
And remember, what was that?
My daughter turned that down.
That was a chief.
My daughter turned that down. My dad had everything
I
greased
was
for
gonna
her.
say, you should have been.
Yeah, it's a nice setup.
Yeah. If you would have known your father was a gunner,
Master gun.
you would have been like,
I think they have some other event there tomorrow too, don't they?
I think the event with John Gallagher was canceled.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Yeah.
I think they had an open house.
Yeah, they had open house, I think, on Saturday, right?
it's a nice view.
Hey, Rich,
Yeah,
I'm here.
you got in? Oh, good.
Yeah. Silly thing.
Got his eyebrows anyway.
If you really look at all the color pictures, they're dull. They're dull. The best people I've ever seen is English.
Did you?
Rich,
Yes.
you've been working with Klepper on his photographs, right?
With some, just the ones that I knew something about.
Do you know, I haven't asked him, I've been busy. Do you know
I learned how to seal my passenger car.
whether they were taken with a good camera or not, or is this all his scanning issues?
I think it's more scanning and, well, there's a couple moving parts there. Russ. One is, first to your first question, with a good camera, I suspect so. I think he used a Leica from early on. The problem is they were 35mm negatives. In the early days, they would be very grainy. And I think there are some significant scanning issues. And I think he has told me that he has not stored the negatives very well.
That's the likely answer. Yeah.
Even when negatives are stored, you've seen what happened, like the Dave Copes negatives. And
So I have a lot of negatives from that period and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and you use plus X, which was
Yeah.
fast enough for most people.
yeah,
They're not gonna know about any of this until.
yeah. I don't know what they've used.
All right, Ed. They're not gonna know anything about
The
it.
reason I'm curious is he had a ton of
They're very happy.
Kodachromes that he lost. of
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Surface mount.
So I didn't know
Yeah.
if he was taking both
Oh,
at
yeah,
the
yes,
same
yes,
time.
Yeah.
two polarities.
I had gotten some stuff from them when we used to hang out at Boston
Yeah.
NRHS back in the '60s,
They just bending them over.
which
You know,
were
actually
like
fitting with the,
postcard size prints, and they were
fitting with
quite
the
nice.
wire.
But the negatives were 50 years younger, and
For what? Stub or
it made a difference too, whether the negatives were commercially developed or whether they were, done at home. I think because I think in Dave's case, they may not have been washed as much as they should have. So
precision scale, if you want.
clean hypo will do nasty things to
But the
them.
best.
Well, then they'll turn brown.
Believe it or not, the
Yeah.
best out there are Intermountain.
With prints, I always doubled the washing time. We used to have washing aid.
I used to use hypo
You
neutralizer.
want them? You got them. You have them.
I used perma wash,
Similar.
double wash cycle.
Yeah.
And instead of 10 minutes, I did 20 minutes low
Dave Bristol just had a slew of wheel sets made up.
at a good velocity. So there were probably 6 to 8 water changes.
He still.
And the prints look like they came off the dryer 40 years ago.
How different they are from the previous one. The way the wheels are cut, they don't have the flat backs anymore.
Ed Miller had done some developing on his own, and he gave it up because somehow he ended up with a grid on.
Well, I gave it up because I couldn't keep up with it once I had enough money to buy Kodachrome.
Oh, yeah. I never did any color processing.
No, I didn't either, but once I had enough money to buy Kodachrome, that was the end of my black and white stuff.
Yeah. Some people stuck with both. I know Ed did, well into the early 70s.
Well, to each his own.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
Hey, you're another East Penn member. Say hello to the crew.
Okay. This is it?
Hi, Mark.
You got 3 of them, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
We'll hang together in case there's a fight.
We're outnumbered.
But there's 19 on Zoom.
Right.
Yeah, not bad. Charlie here by any chance? Charlie Long? Yeah.
No, he's on Zoom. Yeah, he's on Zoom.
Oh.
He may have stepped away from his computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He got flooded out of his house, so. Yeah, I think that's
Did that spin off? Right.
I just saw something tonight on the news. They got like till the end of the week to apply for federal disaster aid. Yeah, I don't know where he's kind of rebuilding now. Yeah. Where's he live at? Where's Charlie live?
Was it
He's somewhere.
Charlie's back.
Fort
he's-
Washington.
For Washington, that's where he's at.
Oh, yeah.
They had a
Anywhere near that creek, man.
I thought Bob Dietrich was here on the furthest away, but it's a friend from Australia tonight.
Yes, we have somebody from
wow.
Australia.
Greetings from oh.
John, how is Saturday shaping up in Australia?
Okay, we're actually in our 80s right now, Saturday morning. So
Okay.
we don't have to wear all this snow gear that I see everybody else is wearing.
Yeah.
Talk transit news in Sydney. I'm sorry to see the Barracuda finally open.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, Steve,
Hmm?
can you
Yeah.
put your phone on mute?
Sure.
I think we're picking up everybody else.
That helps.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to step over you. What happened in Australia?
Well, for transit fans who go beyond rails, an old ferry I remember riding nearly 50 years ago, they had it aside to, rehabilitate. And so a problem is they left it in the water and it finally broke up in the past week.
Ah,
Nature wins every time.
Yeah, well, they said if only we had money, we could have put it in a dry dock.
Yeah.
That might have arrested the decay, but now it's too far gone.
Yeah.
It's like the USS United States.
No, it's worse. At least the United States is still pretty much intact.
it's solid
I could have
anyway.
showed a picture of it on its side and stuff. That's a shame, but hey.
Remember that alongside the New Jersey Turnpike, just to the right of the northbound lanes driving north, just around New Brunswick, there used to be those old Staten Island ferries just sitting there.
Oh, yeah. I guess they're gone now.
I think they probably became compost
Yeah.
with the passage of years.
Well, hopefully it was controlled, not like this thing that just collapsed.
Well, they were just abandoned on, it looked like they just ran them on up to shore and just left them there.
Yeah.
And they just gradually disappeared. I don't think it was ever an intent to preserve them.
I don't know if they have any kind of historic collection.
Well, there's a few ferries that have been kept. One, I think the largest one that ever ran on Manly Route, the South Stain, is kept. It's not run, but it's kept intact and used for meetings and stuff like that.
I'm getting seasick.
Yeah, they have some significant super elevation.
Yeah, I had to turn my computer over. What are you doing to me?
I turned on my side. It was too hard to turn the computer.
Steve, can you turn around and show that station again? I always like that station along the wall. Behind you, behind you.
I was trying to give you a track view here.
Whoa.
Just turn yourself, baby.
I never told his wife that
Looks like you're standing in the Schuylkill, Steve.
Yeah, I'm a giant.
I always thought that was neat how they did the plexiglass for the streets there so you could look down.
Yeah. If you're gonna go back down there again like that, you need a flagman.
How did you guys get here? Done?
Now where I was up, we got a lot.
We got 4 inches. We got 4 inches last night.
We're up to 22 Zoom participants. Wow. Good.
See who's new.
For those that aren't from the Philadelphia area, this is 30th Street Station in Philadelphia. Or a replica thereof, I should say. I believe it's the William Gray 30th Street Station. Is that what it's called now?
Right.
No comment.
Well, let me ask you this, Russ. Why is it called 30th Street Station when it's on 29th Street?
That's an interesting question.
Well, it spans both streets. It's a block long. So it's actually on 30th.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to
It's like-
remember. I've been there. When you've been there all your life, you don't even bother to remember the street numbers.
Yeah, I just always thought it was kind of weird that the east side of the station to me was always like the main part.
Well,
Only,
I think
No,
29th Street used to be called Schuylkill Avenue.
well, I think it is still Schuylkill Avenue, or now called
Yeah,
Schuylkill
but-
Avenue.
The
And the
30th
west,
Street
the
was
west
on
front,
30th.
Tom, was up until a few years ago is where the cab stand was. Now it's on the east front.
Right, yeah, I know that. It just seemed to me that the east side faces downtown Philadelphia.
yeah,
And the
but
west-
Yeah, see, I
The
think the
west-
address is actually like the 2900 block.
Yeah,
Yes,
that makes sense. Yeah.
2955 Market Street,
What's the address, Steve? 29 what?
55.
That would make sense because it does face Market Street. That's where the main entrance is. 29th Street's the east side, 30th Street's the west side.
right. They named it after the trolley station at 30th Street.
Well, you know, all the important stuff's on 30th Street anyway, because
Yeah,
the actual suburban station or suburban platforms are actually on 30th Street.
Yeah, right.
right. Not to mention the stations underneath.
Right. The subway.
In the airport.
Yep.
Right up top,
Hmm.
there's an airport. One of the biplanes during the 30s.
Oh yeah, you know what? I actually have a picture of a biplane at the job over the post office. And when we were researching 30th Street, the roof, it actually was made so that the dirigibles can land there.
It's a pretty short runway there.
Yeah.
Well,
And then a
they
big
had a
fall.
mooring. They had a mooring up there that you could attach to, and there's actually a shaft. And
Yeah, same with-
the south, or the northwest or northeast corner
Yeah.
that goes straight up to the roof.
Same thing on Empire State Building in New York.
Right.
Wait a minute, did you say dirigible or biplane?
Biplane.
Well, the biplane was over at the post office, but the dirigible station is supposed to be on top of 30th Street.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I thought
Yeah.
somebody said the biplane landed on top of 30th Street
Well,
Station.
they had the biplanes too. Yeah.
For Christ's sakes, I did the fucking research on it.
Yes.
Well, it may not have been was it a biplane or an
Uh-huh.
auto gyro?
Well, I actually worked there, so we got all the information. And there's a picture of a biplane on the post office building roof landing there.
Not an auto gyro?
Well, yeah, it's an auto gyro, right?
Yeah, that's not a biplane. That's an auto gyro, and they use that to carry mail over to New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
the Camden Airport.
Would that be the famous airport circle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's where all those hotels used to be with the hourly rates.
I would not know about that. but-
That's the boulevard. That's
Okay.
not.
Is Zinman First still there?
I don't know. There used to be a place that called itself the world's largest gas station.
Well, remember, I guess it was Whitman that cleaned up the Admiral Wilson Boulevard,
Yeah,
rid of all that stuff.
yeah.
Does Miss Vicky still dance there as she tiptoes through the tulips?
It's all gone.
Guys are crazy, man.
I guess we're showing our age.
Miss Vicky, if she's tiptoeing, it's with a walker.
The only clue to the past at Airport Circle
is the, what, if it's still there, there was a place that sold unfinished furniture. And the store was underneath the cast concrete steps and stairs because there used to be a automobile track. And that was the stands for it in concrete. And that may still be there today. If you go into the place, you can see, you're looking up at the ceiling and you're seeing all the steps of the stands from what had been the auto track stands. That's the only thing around there that would give you any clues to the past.
Russ, when you say an auto track, was that the one that was like had
Racetrack.
hills?
No,
Okay,
it was a racetrack.
yeah, because there was something else over in that area that had like hills, so you would like drive your Model T over there or whatever and take a
Could
bumpy
be.
ride
Could
in a
be.
circle.
Could be, but I can't say I've seen any pictures of that. I think the drive-in movie was there where the airport had been for a while. I don't think that's there anymore. And I think that was the first drive-in in the country.
Yeah, I saw some recent tourism things about New Jersey advertising the first drive-ins.
Right, yeah, that probably was on ground from the old airport. But there's a lot of history over on this side of the river as well.
So
I
was
have-
there an increase in the Jersey population with the first drive-in?
I'm sure some people thought about it.
Must have been 30 years ago, whatever. Philadelphia Magazine had like the 10 best parking places in the Philadelphia area. And the one like number 2 or 3 was the lakes down in South Philly. And in quotes underneath or in parentheses underneath, it says, after it said that's where the Irish boys from Newman take the Italian girls from Goretti. And then it like came up with like some crazy figure, like 90% of all firstborn South Philadelphians were conceived at the lakes.
That's sort of a variation of a thing the Inquirer had, about 40 years ago. To have the Today magazine as a Sunday insert. And they had a feature called A Low Life's Guide to Philadelphia. And it was a weekend of sort of downscale things to do. They started off with the 9 o'clock show at the Troc on Friday night. And,
There you go.
and then they went for a late night dinner at the South Philly Diner and on and on.
Yeah, I showing our age again. I remember, I never went to the Troc. I remember it, but Wednesday night they used to change the act over, and when I would come home from school, I would read the bulletin that came out at nighttime, and they would have like the new act at the Troc, and I would want to see who was at the Troc that week because whoever came up with the names, they were fantastic names.
Yeah.
Like the first week of December was Miss Pearly Harbor.
Yeah.
She'll bomb you, like they had great names.
Yeah.
My fraternity used to have a theater party there once a year. Get all dressed up and go to the theater.
Well, my dad, he got out of Roman in '52, and he talks about how used to cut senior class, like the second semester senior year guys used to cut and go down to the Troc. And he said they finally, one day the management came out and said, listen, guys, we don't mind you coming in here. We know you're all 17, 18 years old. We're not going to say anything, and we don't mind you getting up and dancing with the ladies every once in a while. But do us a favor, take off your leather sweaters.
Well, I was a New Yorker and I didn't pay any attention to the Troc because there was 2 tracks on Arch Street full of Peterwitz, and that was more important.
Yeah. Well, you could do both. I mean, they weren't mutually exclusive.
Well, but you come down for the day with a camera, you didn't go to the Troc.
Yeah.
And Arch Street end to end was like Canal Street in Manhattan, full of all sorts of shops. You could buy almost any part of anything
Oh, yeah.
along Arch Street, and that all, of course, has totally vanished.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. You know, there were interesting places to go into.
Oh, yeah. It was just like Canal Street in Manhattan, over which they built the original Trade Center.
Mhm.
Oh, what's the name of the train store out on Westchester Pike?
Nicholas Smith.
Yeah, he used to be there like 11th and Arch.
Yeah,
Well, that's a- yeah.
he was about 3 doors below Arch Street.
No, no, no.
No, that
Nicholas
was
Smith
that was
right on the
Becker.
corner.
Yeah, Nicholas Smith was on the corner, the southwest corner, and then down a couple well, they were small side streets all taken over by the convention center, was Becker, William Becker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was another one.
yeah. And
Well,
Nicholas,
M&A Sporting Goods had a pretty good train department too.
yeah, I never knew that. By the mid 70s, late 70s, it was only Becker and Smith that were left down there.
And there was a nice one on Shelton Avenue in Germantown.
Well, it was E&H, yeah.
That was E&H. Yeah.
Well, the only reason you can see this huge layout is because we still have Sattlers in Westmont. The local paper here just ran a 3-issue article on the 60th year or 66th year of Sattlers on the avenue in Westmont, still in business. Has everything.
Yeah. Still going strong. I was over there not too long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, did a nice article on them in the local paper here. There are not many that stock what they stock, you know,
Yeah.
all the
Well,
bits and pieces that you need.
the guy from when he closed,
Yeah, on the Zoom.
the guy from Franciscan in San Francisco said it's a combination of the shows, you know, the Greenbergs and great scale shows and online marketing.
Hey, remember.
Well, the internet is the real one that makes the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Steve, shall we start the meeting?
Yeah, what time is it?
8:18.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll start it up.
Are you in a quiet place?
Yeah, I can actually walk a little way here, but let me switch it up so you can see my face.
You can go in the other room.
All right.
Oh,
There he is.
You from Mars or Venus?
Well, Pluto.
The masked man, hand him your watch.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, guys. This is the January meeting, first meeting of 2022. Wow.
Yeah. that's right.
Hopefully it'll be a better year than last year. And but it's starting off, I guess, on the who knows what foot in terms of COVID. But hopefully everybody's staying safe. Staying safe, you know, protecting yourselves, not putting yourself in harm's way. That's for the young guys, I guess, like me. But yeah, Charlie, how are we doing money-wise?
Good, good, good. We have $142.16 in petty cash, $3,288.91 in the checking account, $18,979.49 in the money market account, and $97.05 in the PayPal account, for a total of $22,507 The counter sales have done very well.
All right.
How about renewals, Charlie? Most people
Yeah.
renewing?
Renewals are coming in, yeah.
Have you sent you told me you sent the stuff to Scepter, right? Scepter store?
Yeah,
they-
yeah. No, they took them
Yeah.
early. They took them.
Yeah, they
All right,
just,
So I don't know whether they've sold out or not there, whether they still have them in stock.
Okay. So I pencil this in for what's that? 23, May 23. I think it's the 4th, 5th, and 6th. I forgot the exact dates.
Yeah.
For the next meet.
I think it's a little later than that, Steve.
Oh, that's right. I asked for the 4th and 6th.
Yeah,
I got
that's
the
what you
interim.
wanted, yeah.
I got the interim week. I'm sorry. Yeah. What was that? That was the middle 15th, 12th and 15th, I think it was.
Yeah, May 2023, the 12th is a Friday.
Right. So I got 11, 12, and 13 then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not Mother's Day and it's not Memorial Day.
No, it's right in between.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other club news?
Been pretty quiet.
Have we figured out where we're going next month?
Aren't we doing, geez. Gallagher, David,
John
John.
V.
I
John
don't
V.
believe so.
John said whether it's a live meeting will depend on the state of the public health situation.
Correct.
You know,
But when I spoke to him, he said, John, are you on? I guess he's not on, right?
No.
Yeah.
He'll be out in a while.
Yeah.
he's a late arriver.
Probably has to get his pizza first.
We'll probably have to deal with this COVID situation throughout the entire winter. It seems to be seasonal. Probably be the spring. Yeah, things will ease up.
We don't know. I
Yeah,
know
we don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's best for us to do either a hybrid or a full Zoom meeting schedule. I know we're probably going to do the photo contest like we did it before. I think that was a very successful event.
Correct. I believe Mike Janad said he would do that again for us.
Yeah.
What about our friend in France?
Volkmar not here.
Well, wasn't he volunteering to do
But someone's going to have to, contact him about all the logistics and everything. He said he could do two things. He could do one, which is he'll send a pre-recorded thing that could be shown. And the other is he would do sort of an interactive live one. He'd be willing to do it at 2:30 in the morning, Paris time.
More power.
Yeah. Well,
guys, come on in.
But someone's going to have to. I can provide the address, but someone's going to have to contact Volkmar. He has some good ideas. What he'd want to present. His real passion is 3D printing.
Mine
Okay.
too now.
Oh yeah,
I got a 3D printer.
Oh, he's doing the club too now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's addictive.
Yeah.
Rich, you and I can talk offline. If you can give me his information, I'll reach out to him.
Okay, I'll contact you in the next couple of days with all that, Tom. And then and he's presented at the meets and he's done a nice presentation. You've been to them, Bob. I think he's a good presenter.
Yeah, if you understand French or German.
No, he's very fluent in English.
Yeah, very fluent in English.
And a very nice person. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. And has done some and continues to do some interesting things. His latest project, was the Aurora, Elgin and Fox River cars, which became the 300 cars on Shaker Heights, and then a couple of them went to Speed Rail, and he also is finishing up working with John Kennedy on the Shorefast cars. So he's doing things that are kind of right in our wheelhouse.
His elevator is incredible.
Oh yeah, Zenska elevated. Yes, very nice.
Well, I remember that. Yeah, he had that at the meet in 19. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'll get the contact information to Tom, and we'll see what Volkmar, and I'll stay in that discussion too, in case, we'll make it happen.
All right, sounds good. Any other club business? Okay.
You said we've been talking about some kind of an outing in the summer. We'll have to revisit that.
Yeah, either to, I know Shore Museum of Brainford wanted to, they wanted to invite us up there and possibly get a car and ride around in. And then I know Jimmy has some connections there too. So maybe we can set something up there, or out, Rockville or whatever.
Oh, Rock Hill Furnace. Yeah.
Rock Hill.
Yeah. They were great hosts for us a number of years ago. We went there.
If you really want to be adventurous, we can go out to Pittsburgh, but I think
well, that's coming in. Yeah, that's coming in anyhow.
Yeah.
Rich, somebody stepped on you. Why don't we talk a little bit about Pittsburgh? Because some of us definitely will be going there.
Right.
Yeah, that's what, June?
June 1st and 2nd, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't have the dates, but we ought to put it in the newsletter. Yeah. So people start to program that.
Yeah, we could do a Baltimore.
Yeah, we were there. We could conceivably do Baltimore and National Capital in one day.
Yeah. That's it. That might work. Okay. All right, we'll figure it out. All right. Any other business before we move on to prototype news?
Yeah, I understand Baltimore is getting to where they can take over that old roundhouse that was being used for motor vehicles by some, state agency. And apparently they are getting out of there, and Baltimore would be in a position to acquire that property. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Alan Schneider is a member there. I think he's on this.
Is that the case, Alan? Well, he's muted, so.
Unmute yourself, Alan.
I'm doing that.
Oh.
First off, I can't give you a straight answer. Because of COVID, I haven't been to the BSM. But the problem is that they had looked at it several times, and the cost of rebuilding the roof and the structure was way more than they could afford at that time. If the the city is willing to go ahead and pay for it in whole or in part, should go through. It is the location of the salt storage. And as a result, you can expect a lot of corrosion.
Yep.
in the metal and the steel. So at one point, they had an interesting deal. They're going to take it over, rebuild it, and lease it to the city for homeless men on drugs or booze or whatever, and make a profit out of it to fund the rest of the museum. When they found out how much it would cost to restore the roundhouse to a good state of structure, let alone convert it to other uses, they told me that they couldn't do it. Everything is subject to change, and I'm not hearing anything official from the president or anything like that, just gossip. But you gotta wonder, something like that that's been falling apart for decades,
Oh,
whether you could afford to restore it, or whether it'd be cheaper to knock it down and put something up that
exactly.
would
Yeah.
be brand new and good for another century.
One has to ask if there's any asbestos in there.
I'm sorry,
And one has to ask if there's any asbestos in there.
could you speak louder? I'm sorry, your mask.
There might be an asbestos problem, Alan.
Yeah.
I think Steve was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. They didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
they can,
I don't know if BSM has an endowment or as organized a money raising thing as, let's say, PTM does.
yeah, well, it'd be worth having as a piece of ground is probably what you're talking. And let somebody else pay all the cost of cleaning it out and selling off the property. And maybe they could work out something like that with the city.
I've been told that they have the right of first refusal
Good.
when the city abandons it.
Thanks.
And there's no question that it would be just great if they could put more cars under cover.
Right.
Yeah.
And that neighborhood's not a good neighborhood. And it's simply amazing that the cars haven't been vandalized.
Even now that he said it out loud.
Could you speak up?
And now that you said it out loud, something will happen.
Hopefully not, but during the riots, the recent riots 2 or 3 years ago, they weren't touched.
All right.
It's like a mile away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the
the next-
interesting things was that there was a proposal years ago to put a pedestrian bridge from the North Avenue light rail station across the creek into the museum property.
Hmm.
To get to the
Yes.
museum from the other side requires walking over
A long walk.
a highway bridge with a sidewalk,
Yeah.
and then walking 2 or 3 blocks and then over on the road.
Yeah, you think this from Baltimore, Penn? That's what about
What'd you say?
in the
Where the
shorter
ro-
from Baltimore, Penn?
From Penn Station. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
but
the
you-
roundhouse is, could be a new building plus parking, because they don't have a lot of parking. That's a negative. And that property would allow you to have a decent amount of parking plus another storage building. So it's
Yeah.
worth it from a property standpoint.
It's just a question of whether the roundhouse can be reused,
No, I don't.
restored and reused.
Just maintaining something like that, you got to have a lot of income.
I mean, there's so many unknowns there. You probably have lead paint, asbestos. You got to remediate all that stuff. That's a lot of work.
And you might have to replace a lot of the steel work because of the salt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's interesting that the current museum buildings are owned by the city.
Yeah.
And leased from the city for nominal rent. So it is conceivable that the city might decide, I won't say conceivable, it's possible, that they might restore the building before handing it off.
The museum is an asset to the city.
That's how the city sees it, yes.
Yeah.
And the Washington Museum, the nasty capital, they're owned by Montgomery County.
Oh, really?
And when the highwaymen decided to drive 6-lane superhighway through the property, they angled it so that they wiped out both barns and the visitor center, buried it under fill. And so the county ended up by building them 2 new
Yeah.
barns and a visitor center, which is a great improvement over what they had.
Right.
Unfortunately, the running length was reduced somewhat.
But that could be a nice outing for us, Steve, to those two.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll look at that. Any prototype news?
Well, certainly been quiet on the SEPTA front. I don't know what they're doing or if anything.
I know they're doing a lot up in Toronto. I'm seeing a lot of things going on up there.
Yeah, Eglinton's about to, I think they're going to start doing test runs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Ottawa is back in service after some derailments.
Yeah, there's a lot going on
In Washington,
outside the East Coast.
in Washington, DC, the 7000 series were all pulled out again. None are running. And the safety board said that Metro violated the procedure, the protocol that both sides had agreed to. And my line, for example, runs every 26 minutes. And given Metro's inability to run according to schedule, you could wait for 30 minutes or more. I don't know how people do it if I have to get to work and have to change trains. If I were still working to get to Coast Guard headquarters, I'd need to take the Orange Line or the Silver Line. They each are supposed to run at 26 minutes during rush hour, and then transfer at LaFont Plaza to the Green Line to Anacostia, and then catch a bus to headquarters.
Wow, yeah, that's a commute.
And just for your amusement, despite the fact I worked there for 38 years with an unblemished record in terms of discipline or anything, I have to be fully escorted at all times within Coast Guard headquarters. Even to go to the bathroom, I need a guardian.
Was there any talk of Washington Metro getting some of the older series cars back in service?
They're trying to do that, but apparently they were laid up and they need to buy new parts. And they were looking at getting a few cars each week. But apparently there's been no mention of that of late. I still don't understand the issue with the wheels slipping. There was a letter from Kawasaki, several hundred cars into delivery, that said, in effect, we know that for the first 6 series, you use this pressure to press the wheels on. And then for this series, you cut that pressure. You didn't put it on as firmly, presumably. Could we press them on fully? And Metro says, why not? There's no record of whether they went back and pressed them on further. So is it actually possible that this was a stupid decision by Metro not to press them on according to the previous 6 car orders. The other thing that was new was that some of the cars not only are going outward, increasing the gauge, but going inward, which is interesting.
Well, Metro is Metro.
Yes, and the Purple Line, they got the new contractor, and they'll be starting work in the spring, I assume. And the governor, who hates transit, who's a real estate lawyer, urban sprawl and all that, he has used the same mechanism, private partner, private partner partnership, 3 Ps, for 2 highway expansions, which are of the multi-billion-dollar range. And if he had let this go and abandoned it, which I'm sure he wanted, he would be in big trouble, because then this would be used against the highways that the PPP failed. So it's interesting.
Apparently the cars are being built right now for the Purple Line. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and they decided to buy a few more.
Okay.
The other thing that was released was the NTSB report on the Norristown car that slid into a standing car in 69th Street Terminal with no great damage, but knocked a lot of people down. But of course, NTSB got into it. And they finally, after several years, issued their report. And we now have something new in the industry. We have something they've called a braking anomaly. Have you seen that, Steve?
No.
The recordings on the car show that everything worked right. The operator didn't do anything wrong. The car didn't do anything wrong, but yet it somehow managed to slide down through the interlocking and into the terminal platform with a standing car. And the only thing they can say happened was a braking anomaly.
It leaves on the track.
So the industry now has a new technical term for things we can't explain.
That was like
braking anomaly.
that was like Janice Jackson's wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, right. I'd love to see the report,
Yeah.
seeing as the car's are my baby, but I'd love to see the report, but I don't know how the hell you get that stuff.
Well,
Okay.
I also heard
I
that
want
they,
to learn what a braking anomaly is.
It
Russ,
sounds bad.
Russ, you know, you're talking about that one. There were 2 recent accidents in SEPTA. I don't know if you know anything about them. The one where the trolley was hit by the train, and the other one where 2 commuter rail cars met at a turnout.
I hadn't heard about the NU cars, but the Darby Crossing got a lot of newspaper play. And looks to me like the guy was trying to beat the gates, realized that he couldn't get across because the gates are about to come down, because the picture I saw of the gate had come right down on the behind, halfway down the car. And the problem is he tried to stop, and he did stop, but he was a little bit inside the clearance envelope of the freight train.
It's a braking anomaly.
He got whacked, but you know.
Yeah, no, one of the things that were kicked around unofficially is that the he may have seen the lights starting to blink.
Yeah.
So he stopped before the gate came down, but he stopped too close to the track, and instead of backing up, and I don't know how easy it is to back those cars up, but instead of backing up, he just stayed where he was because the gate came down on top of him, which was a little bit too close, as we know.
Is the car repairable?
Oh yeah, he was fortunate. I mean, it could have been really serious.
Yes.
But you know, it just creamed the right front corner of the car. And you know, Woodland Shop has done major rebuilds, much more than that is going to take. Of course, right now they're spending all their time on the PCC 2 rebuilds, which is crazy, but
Well, they're rebuilding those PCCs and then storing them outside at Elmwood for,
yeah, probably.
so by the time if they ever go back into service, they're gonna, be sitting outside for a year or two.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't, if I understood everything SEPTA does, I'd put a gun to my head.
In New York City, the governor came out to convert the Bay Ridge line into some kind of transit line, unspecified whether it be subway, light rail, commuter rail, from at least the Bay Ridge subway, if not the,
Yeah, I've seen the map.
yeah, but the question is, where does it end at the other end? What does it communicate with? That would be interesting to know.
Well, there is a map, and it just goes to the point where if you go any further, you're on the approach to the Hellgate Bridge.
Yeah, it doesn't say where it would terminate, unfortunately.
Well, the map shows
What
it.
station?
It's the only logical place because you can't start taking off of the Hellgate Bridge. So
Exactly.
you have to stop it at some point south of where the connections into Penn Station are made.
But still, one would expect it to stop, to terminate at a subway station or a Long Island Railroad station. Or I
Yeah,
would
something
think.
like that. It's going to cost billions.
Wait,
so
yeah,
I wouldn't hold
George.
my breath.
Excuse me, George Chason says it would connect with the E and F at Queensboro Plaza, Queens Boulevard. That answers the question. Thank you, George.
Well, yeah, yeah, it overpasses Queens Boulevard, I believe. So theoretically, but the question is whether there's a subway station there to connect with. And I don't know, right? But it's not going to happen in a reasonable short time, that's for sure.
None of us will be alive.
What is going to happen in a short time is the opening of the MBTA extension from Union.
Yeah.
From Union Square to North Station.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the most expensive surface light rail in US history.
Per mile, it might be.
Per mile, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of structure work.
Yeah.
It's not a simple construction.
No, I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying it's remarkable.
The lines to Union Square, I believe that's going to be the Riverside terminal, the east end of the Riverside line.
Yeah, through Rooted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other one's going to be Heath Street.
Shit coming out of China.
Yeah.
In Washington, the Silver Line to Dulles Airport and Ashburn will be open sometime next year, probably late.
You mean
Of course, they don't have any cars, but
Well, let me tell you, they're not going to have a metro system with headways of 26 minutes.
anyway.
Who the hell is going to ride when you have to wait up to 30 minutes to get on a train?
and then ride a packed train.
And then you get off at another station, wait another 26 minutes to get to your destination.
Yeah.
It's remarkable they have anybody riding it.
Do they? With COVID?
No, with the service level they're giving.
Yeah, you're packed.
This is better than Beltway traffic.
But there's
Well,
a lot going on.
The Beltway is now moving at 95 miles an hour because there's less congestion. The speeding is, I'm exaggerating, the speeding is outrageous from what I've read.
Anyway,
But there's less cars on it due to COVID. Working at home and all that.
Anyway, there's a lot going on further west.
In San Francisco, next year, they're gonna open up the Central Subway.
Yep, and LA is making great progress on their Blue Line connector through the heart of LA, connecting Flower Station with Union Station.
That's gonna be open this year.
Yeah,
From what
3
they say.
underground stations, which is a major piece of work.
That'll result in a rerouting of all of the light rail lines, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it's going to be what, through from,
Well, they're about a third of the way to San Bernardino
yeah.
or so.
I mean, will that be routed over the,
Don't know.
the blue line or over?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have some end-to-end distances like 40 and 50 miles.
Yeah. The PE lives again.
Yeah. St. Louis, from the airport to the terminal in Illinois, 40 miles. And we tried to get 1,500 volts on that system instead of 600 or 750. And no, I can't do that because that's not what they have in San Diego. So that was the end of that. But the same thing going on in LA, building at 750 volts for lines that are practically interurban lines with no need to have a lower voltage. It's craziness.
Russ, here's a dumb question, but you know, lines that are 40, 50 miles long, will they need to start putting toilets in these cars?
Yeah, right.
Oh, God.
Bring
You know,
your own
SEPTA
bucket.
SEPTA doesn't, but I was just wondering, you know, being progressive out there, if they would start looking at light rail with toilets.
What is the industry standard?
They'll give you free diapers.
What is the rail industry standard for mileage requiring toilets? I have no idea.
Correct. No idea.
I know that the Illinois Central Electric, the Metro Electric, the older cars didn't have toilets. They got some kind of waiver, they told us, from the FRA or ICC. But the new ones have toilets, if I recall correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Metro, all other Metro is with toilets.
Yeah, I thought at one time, wasn't there some ICC regulation that it was something like around 40 miles? You had to have it. So theoretically, SEPTA was maybe in violation when you considered like from Doylestown to Thorndale or so exceeded that length. But I think because it was, you know, a state agency, they basically were exempt from the regulations. If it was still, you know, the privately owned Pennsylvania Railroad or Reading Company, they would have had to comply.
So it would make more sense to be based on running time rather than mileage.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know what they did on any of that.
Well, they might have a loophole around that because basically, go to suburban station, they change destinations. So you're not really running a through train.
Right, and change crews at the suburban.
Right. Now NGT needs toilets because, you know, some of their routes are like, you know, hour and a half, 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Boston did it better in the older days, and when they were state agency. There were no toilets. They've been taken out of service on the RDCs. And North Station didn't have a John. So you'd have to leave your job and hoof it to North Station, and then you couldn't go. And if you ever went to Rockport, which is a great tourist destination, there was no station at that end, no John, and you had to walk a good healthy distance before you could get to anything that would have a John.
Yeah, that Rockport station was the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but there was no building in my day,
Yeah.
and there was no John. And my dad came up to probably see where his money was going. I had to spend time in the lab, and he and my mother went to Rockport. He liked that. Well, up to that point, he had always driven. They took the train, and he said he almost died. And I mentioned it to a conductor. We were talking about things, and he says, "Well, he should have just called one of us. We would have taken him into the vestibule and have him piss out the side." Interesting.
Yep.
But today, everything has a John. All the commuter trains have a John, and North Station, South Station have a John. I never saw a worse looking bathroom than South Station in 1964.
Anyway,
That makes a nice transition to model news, Steve.
Yeah, model. Any model news?
well, we've been watching trains and that didn't have bathrooms up till now. Of course, they're small.
No model news?
Rich, anything new from your buddy George Huckabee on the Kawasaki? I'm not the Kawasaki, the Kansas City
The
cars.
Kansas City cars, they're waiting for the prototypes to be delivered from China, from their new manufacturer. I believe they now have, or will have in the next couple of weeks, the new poles that they're using for Bowser.
Who's making them? Larry Lakewood?
No, they're being made. They're being made in China. They're based on the old miniatures by Eric PCC poles, which are very similar to what the Bowser cars have come with. But they're going to have a better shoe or wheel on them than what they've had.
Well, it's been grand. I've got the wife waiting for me. I told her I'd see her at 9 o'clock. So it's like I'm about to leave. So good to see you all again.
Okay,
Happy
Happy
New Year.
Everybody have a stay well situation.
You too, Russ. Hope we can do it live for too long.
Well, if you look at the newspapers, too long is more likely than not too long.
I understand. No, our hospital, as of this morning, has 147 COVID patients in-house.
Yeah, and lots more out there waiting. So
Yeah.
I don't know where we're headed. We take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Carefully, and that's
Yeah.
the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here in Collingswood, I suspect it's probably one of the better places to be from what I've been able to determine from a standpoint, but you never can be sure.
Nope.
So we're just careful. So stay well, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, Russ.
See you, Russ.
All right, thanks, Russ.
Take care, Russ.
All right, anybody else have any model news?
Bruce Harvey usually has a handle on model news around the world.
Well, I haven't seen anything new.
Mm.
I haven't, I've been checking on the hauling stuff and what he's been doing. It looks like he's been rerunning previous models with new paint schemes.
Okay.
So that's about the only thing that he's been doing. I know if you saw it at the meet, Ed Scuchers had some O gauge stuff as a new manufacturer. It's St. Petersburg quality, but they're metal.
Wow.
Painted, not powered, but they're painted.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Places to match.
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
the other model news, Steve, is we've been back and forth about having a troubleshooting tab in our website for modelers.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. People will get frustrated, you know?
Yeah, well, that's, unfixable gremlins are a reason why people walk away from it sometimes. So, make it hard for people to fail.
Yeah. And I like the name Nothing But Trouble, though.
Okay.
Because sometimes that's how I feel. It's like, oh man, this is crazy. Yeah.
Well, I dealt with a thing recently that, it proves, what someone wants. You miss more not looking than not knowing. I was having an issue with two cars either not climbing hills or derailing in odd spots. And what it was, I was using a pole that had an enormous amount of tension on it and probably just enough to lift the front wheels off to make mischief.
A lot of tension.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, Rich, that might be a good time for you to bring up your idea of a troubleshooting column in the newsletter.
Well,
If you want to talk about that.
Well, I didn't say the newsletter, but I'm saying, to archive it on a site on the web page, because not everyone gets the newsletter. Only members receive the newsletter. But I think we get a lot of hits on our website, Adam, from people that aren't East Penn members. And, we want to make, well, it's a way to recruit members, but it's also a way to provide a service to the traction modeling community.
yeah.
But I don't want this to be fully my thing. First of all, I don't want to proclaim myself as the world's expert on problem solving. And there's a ton of things I don't know anything about, including if there's anything about O-gauge, there may be people who know less than me, but I'm not sure I've met them. But, I see Harvey Simons on, and, I'm sure he has a wealth of information with troubleshooting, with that neat layout that he's built.
Well, I don't know, Rich, I'm not sure about that.
You never had problems?
No, I've had tons of problems. And then somebody else is talking.
Yeah, whoever else is talking in the background, please mute yourself.
Their Russian-backed autocratic leader to flee in 2014.
Could someone turn down their news broadcast or whatever?
With tenuous democracy through one Russian invasion and the threat of another.
Have we been hacked? Someone turn their radio off, or can you find out who that is?
Well, it looks like Steve's iPhone.
We don't yet know how things will go in Kazakhstan as we see Russia is sending.
Because the green bar is around Steve's
And Kazakhstan's president says he's giving his own
image. Steve, your iPhone is on or something is on.
This ebb and flow of democracy is.
No, that's not it.
Democracy holding on tenuously in Ukraine.
Mute yourself for 1 sec, Steve. Let's just see if it goes away.
He did.
That's not it. Eroding in Hungary.
Not Steve.
With terrifying speed in Hong Kong. But also advancing in
Who's David?
places. The island nation of Samoa managed.
What we should all do is mute ourselves.
Yeah.
Democratically elected and first
Who's
female
David?
prime minister took office.
David keeps flashing on my
The
screen.
Caribbean nation of Barbados removed Queen Elizabeth as its head of state and became a republic. Ebb and flow.
Charles, do you know who David is?
You talking about David Safarowitz?
I think it's fair to say that
I don't know who. But mine just comes up as David.
Whoever
No,
the
not
host,
you, David. No, not David Savarowitz.
whoever the host is,
from outside it.
if that person could be muted.
We involved ourselves in other countries' democratic struggles. Goodness knows we often failed to live up to our own standards in that, but the United States.
So Rich, you were asking about troubleshooting. I think the biggest issue I've had is in TrackLane. And what I found was when I built the layout, the only cars that I had at the time that I built the layout were the Bowser PCCs. And then I bought the New Orleans car, which is number 952, which is a different wheelbase and wheel size. And then I used Hollywood Foundry drives for the two Milan cars that I built. And when I added the new cars with different characteristics in the trucks, that's when problems surfaced, which I was very surprised to see, which then involved having to, rejigger the track a little bit. I had to dig up some track. I mean, it was just a pain in the butt. But the least little thing that in terms of the cars that I have, the least little thing that was out of gauge. I mean, it could be, a 16, a tiny little bit out of gauge, and I would get derailments, and those all had to be fixed.
Usually you only get derailments, you used ORTRAC, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Usually with let's say if you're using T-rail, you usually get derailments if the track, if the gauge is too narrow. But with girder rail, if it's too wide, the inner girder can push the
Correct.
wheel off the track.
Correct.
So with girder rail, it has to be absolutely positively spot on, zero tolerance for any variation.
Right. I mean, the mistake that I made was the old layout I built, the minimum radius was 8 inches. This layout was 6 inches. And so I didn't have, to your point, it wasn't exactly spot on every inch of the way around a curve. And that's what created issues for me. Now, the one thing I don't have on my layout are grades. And so I never had the issue of climbing a grade or whatever, nor do I have sort of elevated curves. It's just flat street track in the layout. But I did have gauge issues, which really turned out to be problematical, and they were hard to fix.
Yeah. Before the last module that I built, I really, I got the track laid probably in about 3 weeks, and I spent the next 6 months tweaking the gauge every single place and with every single car, and adapting it to every gremlin before I did any paving.
Right, exactly. And my problem is I started on paving when I assumed I was okay because a certain kind of car was fine. And then once I started paving and then got the other cars, that's when the problems started to surface. Yeah. And that's the one issue. I don't really have dewirement issues because I don't have a lot of special work. Yeah. On the layout. I've got 3 or 4 switches, turnouts, and a couple of crossings. So it's not complicated track work in that sense, yeah. And therefore the overhead isn't complicated. And the one thing I was using, I used to use the Wagner overhead parts. Mm-hmm. I think it's called the B610 for the turnout. And then I went and I was having trouble with the car taking the right path, or I should say the wheel taking the right path. The car would go in one direction and the pole would go in another. But I switched to a smaller crossing. I think it was from Rivers. I can't recall, but it was much, much better.
Well, the ones from Jim Rivers, they're the old Lost Wax casting. I think they have a groove for each direction.
Okay, no, then I went to a different one where there is no groove.
Oh, it's like a pan.
Correct. It's much smaller, yeah. And the dewirements really went away. Yeah. Now, the other thing I should mention, I don't use sliders. I use a sort of an oversized trolley wheel, mm-hmm. which I have found tracks better than the more prototypical slider that came with the poles.
Yeah. What was I'm sorry, I had brain freeze. Oh, John. I'm trying to think. The thought will come back to me.
Yeah.
Well, see, the other point that I note in the real world, the 12 inches to the foot, there's distinct left and right hand frogs.
That's
In
true.
the model world, they're just sort of a Y frog, so
Yeah.
it winds up becoming a compromise.
Yeah, I think what, correct me if I'm wrong, if Tom Letter is still here. I think what he and Larry Loico do is they get those lost wax casting ones like Jim Rivers and Brian Weissman sell, but they file the grooves off it.
Oh, okay.
That's good. That's better.
Yeah.
Because getting those pan type ones are going to be hard because Rich Eaton is no longer going to be producing them.
That was it, Rich. Rich Eaton was the guy who supplied the
Yeah.
frogs that I'm
But he's
using.
not going to be doing it anymore. I don't know if he still has some inventory. You could contact him and ask. I asked him about, because I'd like to get some pole springs from him.
Do you use the poles from the guy in Canada? What's his name?
Eric.
Yeah, Eric. Yeah.
No, he's not doing it. He's had very serious health issues. But his poles are now being made by Bowser.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's good. I love those poles. Those are great.
Richard, I know Larry bought a whole bunch of springs from Bowser.
Oh, okay. So they have them.
Yeah, you might ask Larry.
Yeah, 2 ounces of them is probably a lifetime supply. But you have some waste with them because you go to put one on and it flies across the room and you never see it again. What we've done often is put one in and put just a tiny dab of CA on it to anchor it at one end, and it's not going to fly off anymore.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, just a tiny.
I do that with springs on Katie couplers, and I've never lost it. Once I did that, you stick the spring on one side of the little knobby there and hit it with some ACC and then let it set. And then you put the spring on the moving knuckle.
Just a little bit.
Never lost one after that.
Just a little bit on the end of a pin or a needle. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's good to know that you can get the springs from Bowser. But am I correct, Tom, that you guys with the frogs, those brass frogs, or lost wax casting ones, you file the grooves off?
Larry does, but Larry over engineers on a lot of things. So
yeah.
I'm curious. Those are O-scale parts.
Oh no, they come as HO ones too. That was a mistake I made early on.
Okay.
I had some O-scale ones, and they created havoc.
Gotcha.
And I found the best thing to do to those was I gave them all to John Gallagher.
He's John, are you an O-scale?
Yeah. I must be getting old and senile, Rich. I don't remember ever getting those springs.
And I think you still owe him. You still owe him $20 for them too, if I recall.
No, he didn't charge me to take them off my hands. And you're not senile, John. You're just curmudgeonly.
I'll ask my wife.
I did.
Now, the other thing I
validated
noticed, the other day I got my February 2022 issue of Model Railroader, and in their teaser for the March issue, they say in March, visit David Arrow's traction layout, built to model memories of Philadelphia.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I don't
And,
know
you know, the
him.
name doesn't seem to strike a bell with me, you know, so I don't know.
And he's never been part of our group, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little picture, like you
Yeah.
say, in the teaser, and it looked great. I mean, it really looked terrific.
Yeah.
John, are you next month's host? And will that be live, Zoom, or to be determined? Or hybrid?
What, my February meeting?
Yeah.
That'll most likely be Zoom.
Okay.
I have to figure out what I'm going to do for that. I have a couple of ideas.
You don't have to buy the donuts.
That's true.
John, you missed the earlier portion. We have Steve over at Cherry Valley, and he gave a tour of Cherry Valley. So you have a wonderful layout that, you know, I hope will be part of your presentation.
Thank you. I need to do a lot of work on it. But I'll figure something out to do. I have some ideas, and perhaps a clinic or something like that. Give you some ideas on how I do some things.
Retired professor should teach us something.
Yeah. In fact, when I finish with East Penn here, I got to put together a clinic for tomorrow. Murphy's Law hit us, and a guy who was scheduled to give a clinic couldn't complete it. So, yeah.
So you're having what, the division meeting tomorrow via Zoom?
Yes. Yeah, we canceled the in-person. In my view, first of all, our membership is on average at least what East Penn's is if not older. And
you mean in our 30s?
Yeah, 3 times that. And we talked about it and decided it was just too dangerous with this Omicron version of the COVID. And in fact, we were going to go to a place called Switlick Park in March, which is our next meet. And so we have that facility reserved. And what happened was we got notified that they shut down the park for all of January. And we're finding some other places now are shutting them down. And when you look at the numbers of infections that are going on, it's just too risky. And we're too old. And in a number of cases, we've got spouses who have conditions that we can't bring it home either. And so we can do it on Zoom. We can have clinics and show things and communicate. Look at the kind of communication you're having right here. Look at the number of people that are online here. Was it 21? I think it was last time I looked.
Plus
and
that are over at Cherry Valley. Yeah.
Pardon?
Plus there's a few that in person over at Cherry Valley. Yeah.
Oh, right. And
not many. I think it's only.
Yeah. So I'm going to miss Cherry Valley because it's O scale, and those guys have a absolutely beautiful layout. And it's always inspiring to go there and to see big trains.
Rich,
missed
you were,
that?
Rich, you were saying about in your hospital, there were what, 140 cases of COVID?
147 this morning, diagnosed cases, yeah.
And do you know can you guess roughly what the percentage of unvaccinated?
80 to 90%.
80 to 90%.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. That's a big number.
Yeah, regrettably,
Regrettably,
no
yeah.
surprises. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope
And
some medical researchers look into what motivates people to be so stupid as not to avail themselves of vaccines.
Well, it's multifactorial. This probably, it's probably not the place to discuss it, but it's multifactorial, Alan. It's become highly politicized. There are some people that are just skeptical about all vaccines. Patients who refuse flu vaccine because they said it gives them the flu, which is physiologically impossible. Or I don't believe in it, like it's some religious principle. So.
Rich, what's your specialty?
Internal medicine and rheumatology. I was doing rheumatology for a long time. Currently, I only work 2 half days a week, and I'm not doing any direct patient care. I supervise the residents in their continuity clinic on Tuesday morning and Wednesday afternoon. But I also do the clinical ethics consults in the hospital. I have an advanced degree in that too. So.
That must be very rewarding, I would imagine.
Yeah. Beats working in the Acme.
Yeah.
Though I've always wanted to work the slicer in the deli, Harvey.
The slicer in the deli, yeah.
Just to see how it works.
It's funny you talk about that because every time I go to the grocery store, it's like the guy behind the counter, he's got that big turkey thing. Mm-hmm. And he throws it into that machine, and it's like magic, it just.
I don't know how they can get the slices so thin.
So thin, right? And there's this diagram of how thin you want your turkey.
Yeah.
And
my father used to ask for it so thin that it only had one side.
There you go. Oh, that's great. I love that.
For whatever reason, the Acme calls that chopped. Which to me would seem like you take a piece of meat and you chop it, but if you really, 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 really thin, the Acme at least calls it chopped.
Yeah.
Well, out here in Pittsburgh, it's called chipped chopped ham.
Yeah.
But he wants chipped chopped ham, and that's exactly what it is. One side.
Mm-hmm. But it's a skill.
It is a skill. Yeah. It's like tape. It's like drywall taping. Oh. That's a skill. Paving streets. I was going to say paving girder rail streets. That's a skill.
Oh no, I had a cheating method for that.
What was your cheating method?
Well, the last one I did, I used that DOS clay and spread that and pushed it down and smoothed it out. And then Bob had a sort of a reverse profile thing with bricks that I just stamped the cobbles in.
Oh, that's smart. That's good. Yeah.
Instead of doing it each one by hand, which is
right
for insanity.
Yes, that's true.
Because if you do it, you can only do about 2 inches in a day before going bonkers.
Well, no, yeah, it is amazing. I mean, that's why I'm done with this, because I can't see anymore.
Yeah,
I use joint compound, and a lot of people say, well, that's soft. You can dent it and all the rest of that. And a guy in our division showed me a method. he uses joint compound, and it's very easy to use, and you can always correct it. If you wet it, you can correct it.
Yeah.
That's one of the good features of it. And yes, it is soft on the surface. And then he paints it. For me, I just use an acrylic paint, a gray or a grayish black acrylic paint.
I use the Woodland Scenics asphalt color or concrete color.
Yes, right, right.
Yeah. And then while it's wet, I sprinkle on, I'd have to go downstairs and get the box for the name of it. I sprinkle on a color of, well, I have two. I have a concrete color and I have a macadam color. And what it is the coloring you use to color grout when you do tile floors, like in the kitchen. That the grout comes in at least in this brand line, the grout comes in a sort of a cream color. And you could use that if you want, and that's fine. Or you can color it with this special coloring, and it's a very, very fine powder, and it goes on, and you let it dry. And the next day you come in and you can run. What's the matter with Doug? He's Doug, you're sounding us out.
Yo, Doug.
Doug, what did you eat for dinner?
I'm not sure what you.
Well, I love that idea. Go ahead, John.
What you do is you then vacuum up whatever is left there, because you want to recover as much of it as possible. So you put a piece of a very fine, as like a stocking or something, over the vacuum cleaner and vacuum it up and turn it off, and you can recover what didn't stick to the paint. And you can go back in with the paint and do it. Or you could even use some matte medium and spray it with water and do it like you do it with ballast. And then you leave it. And this stuff is so hard that I've actually had a nail, and I didn't have an emery board, and just right on my street, I go back and forth and just sand my nail down to where it was. It is so hard. And then you can color it with all kinds of things. I mean, if you want to make it look like a used street, you can use these pieces of carbon or carbon pencils. I'm not talking about the regular lead pencils, but carbon pencils from from Michaels, or it used to be AC Moore. I loved AC Moore. Michaels is not as good in my view. To put the drip line down the center of the road, and then you take your finger and rub it and blend it in. And so my roads look like the stuff that PennDOT does. They're a wreck. And it's really is a nice.
Bob Dietrich goes one step further, John, which has been a good idea. When he mixes his stuff, for the paving, he puts some paint in it. So in case it gets chipped or something,
right.
It maintains the color.
Right. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Let me tell you a bad thing that I did that I recommend that everyone be sure not to do. And that is when I first did some paving, I used spackle. And that's as hard as marble. And I really didn't like the way it was lying. It was rippled. So, and when you wet it, all that happens is the water beads up on it. And so
That's interesting. Yeah.
I had to dig it out. And
right.
But yeah, if you use wall joint stuff, if you put a wet sponge over it, it loosens up again. One other thing, however, I did a lot, mainly because John Derr, one of our founding members, always wrote in the early things, put a layer of shellac down so you don't get dust in your gears, and then paint over that. So there are a lot of sections where I did that too.
I use patching plaster, which has a long working time. And that seems to work, that worked pretty well. But I love the idea of embossing the bricks, the method you described, Rich. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, if you're going to do
versus-
it, Bob could loan you the pieces. He could send it to you, and if you were going to be doing that, yeah.
Right. No, I mean, I'm not, but that's a great idea. I wish I had known about that
Yeah.
before. That
And
was
doing
good.
it in that DOS clay was perfect.
Yeah.
Was
And
that-
does the clay harden then?
Yeah,
Or-
that
okay.
hardens. Yeah,
Right.
that hardens. And it
Right.
comes in a brick, and it's about the size of a regular brick.
Right. Right.
And
I know about your frustration with carving, with an X-Acto or something. Kenny, I don't see his name here, Ken Molchenow, who's a member of our club. He gave me it was a removal, when you have Scotch tape, you have that sharp edge and you rip the tape off, all right? So you don't have to use a pair of scissors when it comes off of the spool.
yeah,
Well, the commercial ones that they use, like when they're packaging, it's probably about this wide. I ought to go down the bench and just get it and show it to you. And it's sharp, and it's of course, it's the one he gave me. It was the exact width of a brick, and so I would put a straight edge down, and then this thing, and I just scrape right across my plaster, and I would get a line of bricks, and then all I had to do was go in with a dental tool.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
The other, and it saved me because I know what Rich was talking about. I had on one part of my layout probably about 5.5 feet of single track, and I just wanted to put the brick between the rails, and it must have taken me 6 years to do that. Literally,
2 inches a day, that's a month's work.
Yeah, I would do 3 or 4 courses, and then my mind went, and I had to stop.
Let
And
me
I'd
tell
get
you
back to
another.
it 2 weeks later.
Let me tell you one other thing that did not work for doing the cobbles. Shapeways sold a thing. It was like a roller.
Yeah, they don't work.
No, because the flange was too deep.
What is that, Rich? Describe that.
It's a roller that had like reverse things for cobbles, and you roll it over the girder rail and
Right.
onto the wet paving thing or semi-set paving thing, and it would put cobbles in. But the problem is you really want those cobbles below the level of the railhead.
Correct.
And the flanges were too high, so they ended up being high and would make considerable mischief with the running gear on the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you HO guys, you don't have the advantage of O scale, and it's got a little bit more weight. Our trolley cars are weighing, a pound to two pounds or so. And one thing I found was I'd look at the track and I'd go, why have I got grease on the pavement? And what it was, when I put a ruler on it, I realized that the pavement was higher than the rail. And so actually I was having intermittent operation because the wheels were riding off of the rail and you're losing electrical contact.
Yeah.
Right.
And, so those are things you just gotta watch out for. And
Now in the cobbles between the rails, I have painted longitudinal lines for where the motors would leak grease, just to be prototypic.
yeah. Yeah, and somebody told me about, you'll notice that on the roads now, between where mostly the car wheels ride in the center, if you look at older photographs, they were really grimy black. The concrete was really grimy black.
Yeah.
And some guy who restores old cars, he said, John, there used to be some kind of it was an oil filter, or that not the oil filter like that you screw on the car now, but there was some kind of an oil vent or something in the engines in those days, and that's where you got a lot of oil. And that's why if you're modeling older years, like the 40s or something like that, the oil mark or the oil streak between the wheels on the pavement from the automobiles and trucks should be darker. I mean, that's just a minor thing.
When I was doing, because my model was of that Seaver Street loop in Boston, Tony Tiuli sent me a bunch of pictures he had taken of abandoned rail which had been exposed, during street repair projects, and it gave me some good ideas about, different colors for the bricks, and I didn't want them to be perfect and totally symmetric. Some of them you want to be chipped, some of them you want to be a little darker than others, and you sort of want the dark mortar line between them.
I found it very tricky to scale down weathering. I would earlier layouts, I tended to over weather things, and they just, it didn't look realistic. So on this layout, I really try to steer clear of heavy weathering because I don't think it looks realistic.
Yeah. What I did was take a little bit of like the either stone or asphalt color, woodland scenics.
Yes.
Put it on a rag, wipe it over where I want it, and then take a dry rag and wipe it off. And it would be very irregular, and it was the look I wanted.
It was just enough, right? Yeah. Yeah. So John, you have an O scale layout?
Yes.
Are there pictures of your layout somewhere? I'd love to see it.
Come to the meeting next month. on Zoom, you'll see it.
Well, that's a possibility. I could do, one of the things I could do is a slideshow of where I am on my layout. I probably have 15% scenery. It's still a lot of
to run.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near where Rich is on his layout. And I hand lay a lot of my track, and I'm not a fast worker, I'm slow. Yeah. So I'm working on an interchange because I do interurban operations, and so I want to interchange freight with a local railroad. It was a real railroad, New York, Ontario, and Western. And so I'm working on the interchange trackage there. And you make mistakes. You go along. I was using, I don't believe in hand laying rail in tunnels. That's absurd. So I use flex track, or
right.
In O scale, you can get snap track that has a pretty good radius on it. And but when you then transition to your hand laid track, I found that my track is too high, and there's too much of a problem of transitioning because I'm using code 100 rail.
Right.
And code 100 rail is about 70 pound rail in the prototype. And so you're going from code 125 or higher rail to, so it looks like I'm going to have to rip some stuff out and work in some other hand laid turnouts to make.
How do you get do you do the T rail? Because there isn't girder rail in O scale, right?
There was a guy named Bill Clauser. Isn't that his name? Clauser?
Yes.
A long time ago, and he did his problem for us. His problem was he did fine scale.
Yeah.
That's sort of like that proto 48. In other words, O scale is actually 5-foot gauge. Well, there are modelers in O scale that say no, we want it real 4-foot 8.5, which narrows it. But then the flanges are really small, and so I have one length of it. 3-foot length of his rail that I think it was Ed Torpy gave it to me. And what we O-scalers have said many times, we ought to get together and have a company that can do nickel silver actually pull girder rail for us in O-scale, but that never happened.
So what do
I
you,
use-
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what I use is when I'm in my street track, I use code 100. Now, I collect thrown away HO flex track. Clubs will pull up their track and that, and I'll either buy it from them or ask them to donate it to me, or John, take it away. We don't want to see it again, type of thing. And so I have a collection of O-scale of, HO flex track. Plus I also have HO snap track that the old, and I like steel. The old HO sets in the 50s or 60s. Remember you had HO sets where you got track. It's almost like Lionel, the same kind of concept. You got track and a power pack and an engine, some rolling stock.
Right.
And those were steel rails.
Tyco is steel.
Pardon?
Tyco is steel. Tyco track and Lifelike track are steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're steel. They're, you put a magnet on them, they grip. And in O-scale are the wheels we get from the manufacturers and from Northwest Shortline are steel wheels. And steel wheels on steel rail, you get good traction. And so what I do is when I'm doing street track, is I take the HO track, but I don't rip it off the ties. I leave it on the ties and I cut it right down the center. Now, if I spread them out with my gauges to O-scale and I put them down with a caulk and a couple of spikes so they don't move.
So it's two rails sticking up as opposed to a T-rail.
It is T-rail.
Oh, it is T-rail. Okay.
It is T-rail. But the thing is that I spread them apart to O-scale.
Yeah,
I'm going to put this all
Have a great evening.
Yeah. Okay, Rich. So that's all going to go under pavement. And so I put them down and I can actually lay a lot of track pretty quickly that way because it's got the ties. The thing is, at least for HO, you can do this with HO also, is I get this L-shaped plastic that's sold by, it's one of the plastic manufacturers. You can get it in hobby shops. And it's the height of code 100 rail. And I glue that to the plastic ties, and that creates my girder rail because it creates the little narrow flangeway.
Right.
And then I can pave between the two, or I use that Holgate and Reynolds plastic brick.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy those sheets of that brick and you can glue them in there. Sometimes you have to jack it up with a little strip of plastic to get it up to the proper height.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I do my street track when I have brick. Otherwise, I use as I said previously, the joint compound and then that grout material on top of it.
Right.
I probably ought to write an article for one of the magazines doing that to show it, just to spread it around. The thing is, the HO ties that the HO spikes that are molded into the ties of this flex track. For HO, for your flangeways, you want them narrower, so you need to find the track that has the much smaller molded in spikes, because when you take that plastic and you push it up against the spikes, it creates a nice even flangeway. You don't have to measure or anything. You just push it up and then you hit it with your plastic welding cement or adhesive, and it molds right in and it won't move after that. Those plastic angle strips will not move. That's my technique.
Mhm.
Steve said something to me about the steel there. Steve, what were you talking about? I didn't catch that.
I think Steve said it was
steel
the
rail.
Tyco track. It was steel,
Yeah,
steel.
steel rail. Tyco makes steel rail, and so does Lifelike. So if you come across any snap track that's Tyco or AHM or Lifelike, it's usually steel, not
I
nickel
see.
silver.
Right, right.
And you're right. Steel rails are better for traction. I put them on my exits to the subway so I can get more traction out of the subway.
Yeah, I have 4.5. I have my railroad is maximum grade is 4% grade, and I have one of these old Pittman freight motors. It was the freight motor that Pittman made. That was the Lehigh Valley Transit freight motors. And that thing has a DC 95 motor, and it's 8-wheel drive, and it weighs a ton. And I purchased it from John Durr, and I can pull a train up 5 or 6 freight cars up 4% grade, no problem at all. And my freight cars will all weigh at least a pound. NMRA standards, a 60-foot freight car has to weigh 15 ounces. And but with the steel rail, it just grinds right up the hill, no problem.
All right, guys. We left Cherry Valley. They actually closed up on us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a good session though.
Yes.
Yeah, nice layout there.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna sign off. I'm way home now, but I'll see you guys next month.
Yeah, so it was good to see the Cherry Valley layout. I'll send them a little contribution.
Yes, thanks.
Good to see everybody. Take care.
Okay,
All right,
good to
take care,
see you.
guys.
Take care. I'm going to sign off too.
Yep.
Thanks for everything.
Okay, thanks for joining. See you guys next
Okay,
month.
good night.
Good night, everybody.